Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? And yes, it is Friday. It is Friday, the day after Christmas. I was able to sneak out of the house to do this show. The wife was working, so I figured, what the heck? Let's do a show. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. First of all, just want to welcome everyone that's joining live over from Twitter, over from Facebook, over from where else we live, over on YouTube, of course. So for those of you that are watching live, go ahead and show us some love, give us a like, give us a follow, and on YouTube hit that bell notification so you get notified every time we go live. And for the OGs that are listening to us on the audio side, thank you for keeping us in your ears, whether you're on the treadmill or in the car. And if you're a Spotify user, you get this, you get video as well. So kind of feel free to check that out. But yes, Merry Christmas. I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday. And we've got another short week coming up next week. And from the numbers here, for the numbers joining us live, I have a feeling that next week we'll be joining you the same time, 3 o'clock on Friday. I mean, if it's working, might as well. I would do this at 3 o'clock every day. However, this is not my full-time job. So it is what it is. But until then, we after next week, we'll go back to Thursdays at 8 o'clock. But for those of you joining, thank you. It is a joy to be here. And 2K crew, we got a lot. We got a lot to talk about. We've got Michigan drama. We've got Michigan conclusion to drama, let's say, maybe, question mark. I've got I did get a lot of heat about one tweet that I read off here about Mendoza winning the Heisman, and I just want to back a little bit of that up. We've got power rankings, we've got Turbo's top 5 for the NFL, as well as our pick segment, Paycheck and Onions. So get locked in. We're going to be talking college football, we're going to be talking pro football. We've got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get started. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect to, when I woke up this morning, to, have Michigan kind of solidifying their coaching position. So let's start off with, let's get the Fernando Mendoza I don't want to say controversy out of the way. It was just my opinion. And if you watched the show last week, I provided a tweet saying that it just compared his stats to the last 5 quarterbacks that have won the Heisman. And his stats were quite a bit less than the last 5 quarterbacks. And I got a lot of heat saying, well, Turbo, you don't know ball. Turbo, you don't know this. Turbo, you're an asshole. Turbo, you don't know this. Well, I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying he's the most deserving quarterback this year, because there really wasn't a quarterback, at least in the Power 4, that deserved it more than he did. But when you look at other players, non-quarterback players, I'm gonna be in the corner of Love the whole time, just because he's my guy. I'm diehard Notre Dame fan. I think he deserved to be there, and he was there. But to finish third, I thought was rather odd. But here's a tweet that I found, and I was like, yes, okay, this is going to, I'm not going to say solidify my argument, because the argument I posed last week, it was pretty much cut and dry. Every statistical category he lacked in when it came to passing yards, passing touchdowns, everything. So here, I just want to further that point here. This is from Bear Bryant's Burner over on Twitter. The truth behind Fernando Mendoza. 27 of his 33 touchdowns came against Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Illinois, Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, and Purdue. The other six touchdowns were against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State. He combined for 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in these games. And I think when you you can even take the Penn State one out of that. Maryland, I mean, these are not good Big Ten teams. Maryland is much improved. Penn State, regardless at the time, might have was a different story then than the absolute final product that we saw, but Iowa, Oregon, and Ohio State are the teams that jumped out to me on this list, and that's where you always hear the Heisman moments. When did this player have his Heisman moment? Well, when you have it's easy to have quote unquote Heisman moments against lesser competition, but when you're facing the big guys in your conference and you throw 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, can you really say that any of those were a Heisman moment? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I mean, we can't take the Heisman Trophy back. He's already won it. Kudos to him. But let's take this a further step. And like I was trying to talk about last week, okay, yes, he's the Heisman Trophy winner. He is, that tells you he's arguably the best quarterback in college football in 2025. Now, when we go into the 2026 draft, does that immediately make him the number 1 overall pick? And if you look at a lot of the teams at the top of this list for the draft coming up, I know there's the teams like the Giants you can kind of throw out because they feel that they have their quarterback of the future in Jackson Dart, but you look at the Jets amongst other teams that can't really say that. So, and Mendoza is kind of the only one that's at least, declared for the draft. I mean, Oregon's quarterback, possibly. Simpson from Alabama possibly could be declaring, but there's a lot of folks that are saying, no, I'm pretty sure these guys are going to wait till next year. Is he a franchise quarterback type of guy? And the comparison that I drew last week was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was a very good NFL player, played for many years, got paid a lot of money. His agent's probably the best in the business. But as far as postseason accomplishments, never, no Super Bowl rings. So if you're telling me that Mendoza is going to have a career very similar to Kirk Cousins, as a fan base of that team, I would take that. But is it worth the number 1 overall pick? Is it worth, a team like the Jets who has a lot of draft capital? Is it worth putting that on the line to get a guy like that? Or a team like the Jets has many, many, many other areas of concern. So would it be better to go about it that way? And the answer is there are going to be teams lining up to trade up to who, if the Giants get the number 1 overall pick, they're going to get a king's ransom. So one team can draft Fernando Mendoza, and if he's a steady Eddie for the next 15 years, cool. It was worth it. But if you're drawing comparisons to Kirk Cousins, is he going to be able to provide that steady Eddie into the playoffs and beyond? I don't know. Just some food for thought. Now let's get into kind of where I've been planning this whole show around, and then we'll get to once we get to the college football part of this, then we'll get into the Kyle Whittingham pretty much inevitably is going to Michigan. So I wanted to grab some Michigan responses as well as some non-Michigan responses and kind of lay it out there and see, and let's talk it through. Is he going to be a good hire at the University of Michigan? But first, Michigan has been the gift that's been keeping on giving this holiday season, 2K crew, especially for the sports media. And interim coach Biff he's laying it all out there, and kudos to him. And once we get through these tweets, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, he knows he's not going to be the coach for very much longer. So why not just air it all out, let it all out there. And so let's get into it. This is from Jake Butt. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jake Butt is a Michigan alum, tight end. He tweets, Biff's comments were pretty clear to me. He's stating facts. Players will opt out and hit the portal if there isn't a firm hire soon. We'll get to that. I'm sorry that the truth is painful for some to hear. To me, those comments were a direct challenge to the direction makers or decision makers rather to act quickly or risk losing this roster. And I think all of us pretty much know one of the main ones he's talking about is Bryce Underwood. And we got into it a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of the Michigan fan base that want him out of there. And I'm not saying that's the case, but is Whittingham really going to be able to kind of gather the reins and keep him there? We're going to see. We're going to see because January 2nd, the portal opens. So whether these guys, whether him and, likely a lot of the other guys, are they going to stay? I don't know. I don't know. There is something about the Michigan program that you really don't see a whole lot of guys transfer from. So that could be on the table. And it's not like well, we'll hold that. We'll hold that before we get into the whole new hire thing. Here's kind of the comments that Jake Butt was talking about. This is from Yahoo Sports. Biff Poggi doesn't sugarcoat the state of Michigan football. This is a quote directly from him. Quote, it's been 5 years of a malfunctioning organization. Let's call it what it is. It's happened every year. Unquote. And to further that point, this is from Intrinsic. Breaking, Biff Poggi says up to 25 Michigan players may not return and could miss the Texas game. When lesser men won't be there on the 31st, I'm thinking, honestly, there could be 25 guys not coming back. Now, keep in mind that was prior to, which they really haven't announced it yet. I've been kind of keeping a look on my phone. I haven't gotten any notifications that they have made it official, but all things kind of lead towards that. So this could be all for naught. This could be all for naught. The only thing I do know is Biff will not be there. This is from Richard down bad right now. So let's give it up for Richard. Hopefully he can make it up here pretty soon. If Biff Poggi gets the Michigan job, that means over the last 20 years, one of the quote-unquote best jobs in college football will have been held by Rich Rodriguez, Brady Hoke, Sharon Moore, and Biff Poggi. What a complete and utter shit show. An embarrassment to the highest degree. And here's another one. This is from Blue by 90, which this guy, Mr. Blue here, this is what his account is known for, is Michigan. It feels insane to me that 24 months ago, Michigan was at the absolute top of college football. It took 2 decades to build a program to beat Ohio State and win a national title. All of that is torn down in less than 2 years. I hate it here. So I'm not sure if Mr. Blue is going to be happy about this. But it was just like, holy crap. I mean, this is just a snowball of just bad stuff after bad stuff after bad stuff. And it gets even better. It gets even better. This is from Andy Emerson. Michigan fans are finding out in real time the job isn't what we think it is. The exact same thing happened when Rich Rod was fired. No one wanted the job, and they had to settle for Hoke. The administration is so screwed up, and the program's own worst enemy. And the last one here, which was going to be the exact pivot I was going to make. Daily U of M. If Ward Manuel isn't fired by the end of the year, then Michigan has an academic department standpoint is a joke. As an academic standpoint. Or athletic department standpoint is a joke. Obviously, reading on Friday is harder than it is on Thursdays. But no, they're 100% right. And we talked about this last week. What type of coach are you going to get in there when the president is an interim president? The athletic directors let all of this go on under his watch. Where's the accountability? And up until this point of 3:24 p.m. on Friday, December 26th, there hasn't been any. So for just the simple fact that Whittingham wants to go there, Michigan fans should be just elated. Just elated because this is awesome for you guys, considering what the other possibilities could be. So all in all, I would say that's a pretty big thing here. Pretty big thing. So that's pretty much all the news I kind of had prepared. So let's get into the college football stuff here. And yes, we will get into the games coming up in the next round of the playoffs. We'll kind of review what kind of happened in the first round. So if you're here for that, we'll get there. We'll get there. But there's some other stuff too that I want to continue on here. So let's continue on the Kyle Whittingham train here. And no, where's it at? Where's it at? Here it is. This is from Bleacher Report. For those unfamiliar with Kyle Whittingham's resume, 177 and 88 record, 8 ranked finishes, 11 bowl wins, 8 seasons with 10 plus wins, 12 seasons with 9 plus wins, 13 and 0 record in 2008, finished AP number 2. 2008 Mountain West champion, 2021 Pac-12 champion, 2022 Pac-12 champions. Helped take Utah from Mountain West to Pac-12 to Big Ten. So there it is. So your Michigan won't be hiring a guy who doesn't have a good track record, because he does. He's coached for like 22 years at Utah. And so for those of you that don't know, he stepped away from the program earlier in the month. Didn't necessarily say he was going to retire. But this was all prior to the whole Sherrone Moore fiasco, so it's not like he stepped away from Utah to ultimately take the job at Michigan. This was just kind of a happenstance. And I have a feeling if you sat down Michigan fans and said, okay, here's a list of possible coaching candidates. You know, you got Kalen DeBoer, you got the dude from Arizona State, you got this guy, and you got Kyle Whittingham. Now, people that really know who he is would be like, okay, I would want him not before Kalen DeBoer, not before old buddy from ASU, but probably third. And as we kind of watched the first round of the playoffs go, I mean, before halftime, I thought for sure Michigan fans were going to be tweeting up a storm, which they were, to saying that, all right, Kalen DeBoer, come on up to Ann Arbor. Come on up to Ann Arbor. You obviously can't win at Alabama. You don't like it down there. Come on up to Michigan. We got you. And we kind of saw that table turn very, very quickly. And if Michigan was, excuse me, if Michigan was kind of hoping that that DeBoer was going to make a decision after the college football playoff run, then they would be setting themselves up for the vast majority of the team transferring out on January 2nd, I do believe, because there is no coach in place. So, or even if DeBoer in Alabama happened to lose this coming weekend, you're the very, very small time frame here. Very small time frame. So it's kind of unrealistic in that aspect. And then shortly after, old buddy from ASU gets a big extension to stay. So he should honestly send a thank you card to the AD of Michigan saying thank you for, kind of nudging my boss into a raise, because I really didn't want to go to Michigan anyway. And now there's a lot of folks that are saying Michigan is stuck with Whittingham. They're kind of stuck. So let's get some responses here. This is from John U. Bacon, and I took this just prior to going live. Whittingham to Michigan is done. More info from best sources. It will be announced this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Weather might stop in, I'm assuming AA is Ann Arbor, because it's, this morning was an icy mess. But we'll meet team in Orlando, short of quote unquote George O'Leary to Notre Dame style last second disaster. This is a done deal. So according to Mr. Bacon here, this in the even at halftime of the Central Michigan Northwestern game, which is up here on the big screen, Pete Thamel was saying this was kind of imminent. They were just hammering out some last minute details, whether Whittingham was going to coach Utah in their bowl game or if he was just going to bypass that and go down to like Mr. Bacon says here, he'll join Michigan in Orlando. So that's kind of where everything is at least. Yeah, still have not got a notification that he has officially been hired, but all signs are leaning towards that. And this is from J Book. Michigan hiring Whittingham, a guy who is semi-retired, ran out of Utah at the age of 66, is their version of the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll. Looks like they just wanted an adult in a room to manage their chaos. And half of me is thinking that Mr. Book is not wrong. Is not wrong, and we're not saying that. And there was a lot of us that were rather hesitant to, or kind of confused by the Pete Carroll hire in Vegas, but it at the time it made sense. The organization was just a mess. He was supposed to be like Mr. Book said, that adult in the room to come in and kind of put a culture down. This is what we do. This is how we orchestrate ourselves. This is what our program is going to be about. And if you think about it that way, Mr. Book isn't wrong. This is what Whittingham has done at Utah. And now Utah is not they're not the creme de la creme that Michigan has put themselves in. But what's to say he can't do it? Now, I will be the first to say that his age, yes, that if you're a Michigan fan, that could be concerning. And why do you say it could be concerning? Well, he's not going to be your coach, I'm assuming, for the next decade. Is he kind of a good stopgap guy? Yeah. Yeah, for the next 3-5 years, sure. And who knows? He might run out. He might have a good 10-year run. None of us know that. But if you're putting betting odds in front of me saying, will Kyle Whittingham be the Michigan coach in 2035? I'm going to say no. No. And it's not that he's not a good coach. He's 66 years old. And to me, I mean, this was a product of the best of all evils. If Michigan does not land a guy like this, who else are they going to land? You going to keep Biff there? As we just went through, all of Michigan just looking at Biff's comments, going, "Yep, okay, I get it, I agree with it." So let's get some more reactions here. This is from Buckeye Nation, obviously not a very pro Michigan account. He says they are hiring a guy with no allegiances to the state of Ohio or Michigan, anti-NIL, close to 70. And I wanted to put that here just because I don't think that Whittingham is anti-NIL, which he could be right up there with Nick Saban and Dabo. They don't really like it. But we're in 2025 going into 2026. This is something that every coach has to deal with. And do you think that maybe there's a little bit more to offer in the pot at the University of Michigan as opposed to Utah? I think it's a very, very good chance. Very good chance. And do you happen to think that maybe, just maybe, Michigan has some more qualified people in place to run their NIL? Quite possibly, as compared to Utah. So I think Coach Whittingham's ideas or kind of viewpoints on NIL might change once he gets into the building, and they're like, here you go, Coach. Here's your budget. Who do you want? We're the University of Michigan. We go get whoever we want. Who do you want? And having that kind of behind him, I have a very good feeling it makes your confidence and kind of viewpoints change a little bit in NIL when you have something like that behind you. Just a thought, maybe. I don't know. Maybe those folks are going to be like maybe the folks in charge of the NIL. Every college has pretty much a guy in charge that takes care of all that. Maybe they got let go too. I don't know. But it's just the fact that it's Michigan is in a whole other league when it comes to NIL as compared to Utah. And he was getting folks to go to Utah prior to NIL. So I have a feeling his viewpoint might change once he gets to Ann Arbor. This is from Fitzman MSU, team up north. So let me get this straight. Whittingham wasn't good enough for Utah to keep, but Michigan fans see it as a potential home run hire. In Fitz, it's hard to argue that. It's very hard to argue that, but if you're a Michigan fan, you have to be stoked with this as compared to a lot of the other available people. Like I said, this was kind of the best of the worst, I guess you could say. Let's get another one here. We already did that one. And if anyone is worried, Scott Bell has done the Instagram digging. He says Kyle Whittingham follows 5 women on Instagram. All are fully clothed, and the majority of them are related to him. He has 0 posts in the last 11 plus years. Hiring grade A+. Now, Scott, that is next level journalism there. I understand it's kind of a little shot, a little jab, but worth it. And I thought needed to be given the kudos that your journalism expertise has provided. So all in all, I think this is a good thing for the University of Michigan. Is it the splash that they were hoping to make with some of the other candidates? No. And Michigan fans can't sit here and try to tell me that yes, this was the best option from day one, because it wasn't. And if you're one of those Michigan fans, you're delusional. You're delusional. Is he going to be good for your program? Absolutely. He brings some clout, some name power to that organization that a lot of the other candidates, who probably none of us really know, couldn't bring. So to fill a gap for right now, in hopes that he is able to keep at least a core amount of your players from transferring, I think is a huge win. But is he that guy that is? I mean, if of course Dave Portnoy is going to tell you he's the greatest coach since, Nick Saban. But is he really? Is he really? Time will tell. I think a Big Ten schedule is going to be a whole lot different than what he's used to. And just the whole state of being at Michigan as compared to Utah, I think is going to be eye-opening for him. Now let's see if they can hire an AD and a president that will hold, which I have a very good feeling the University of Michigan is not going to have to hold Coach Whittingham accountable. But they need to there needs to be checks and balances in place. And until that is solidified, the next coach after Coach Whittingham, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? All right, so we've talked about a half an hour about Michigan football, and rightfully so. Like I said, they've just been the gift that's been keeping on giving, for folks like me in this space. So bring it on. But there is one other college football story that I wanted to get into before we get into looking at the bracket and all of that jazz. Is the Notre Dame USC rivalry being no more? And you've got 2 very, very proud sides that are standing on this saying, it's your fault. The other one saying, no, it's your fault. Well, here's the thing. It's both programs' fault. And I wanted to do it, which my Twitter feed is full of Notre Dame pundits. So I wanted to see the other side of this. And I think it was very well put forth when Keyshawn Johnson got on the mic and was just saying he's ashamed and not proud that this happened. him playing Notre Dame was one of the better games during his career at USC. And he was kind of the first one to get out in front of this, to be like, yo, this is messed up. Whatever it is, figure it out and fix it. And for those of you that don't know, it was not that supposedly, allegedly, it was not USC not wanting to play Notre Dame. It wasn't Notre Dame not wanting to play USC. It was a matter of when. And traditionally, this game has been played November, later in the season. Well, USC wanted to keep the schedule or keep the rivalry there, but they wanted to schedule it at like week 0, which I guess there's rules as to who can and can't play in week 0. Didn't know that. And there was a lot of back and forth about the agreement that all of college football agreed to when it comes to Notre Dame. If they're this coming season and beyond, if they're in the top 12, they get a bid into the playoff. USC didn't like that. And they wanted to get this game out of the way early. So if one of them were to lose, it's easier to rebound after a loss in week 1 or 2 as compared to week 11 or 12. That's what their thinking was. So that's kind of where as a Notre Dame fan, this is something that, has been, it's a conversation that's been ongoing for like the last 2 years. And to see it end like this is kind of a shame, because honestly, growing up a Notre Dame fan, I was always excited to see that USC Notre Dame game. Two of the more iconic programs at the time go head to head. And for the longest time, Notre Dame got their shit kicked in. That Pete Carroll era was not very good to Notre Dame. Now, you can say what you want to about the Pete Carroll era. They were cheaters. They did, they paid players. Regardless, they were second to none in college football. So, as a Notre Dame fan watching those games, it was always cool to see how Notre Dame stacked up to the Matt Leinerts, the Reggie Bushes, the Lendell Whites, that tremendous defense. And we normally came up on the short side of it. Well, here recently, that's kind of been the reverse. I believe Notre Dame's won 7 of the last 9 or something, some stat like that. But I think the only one we've lost here recently was Caleb Williams' junior year when he won the Heisman. I think that's the last one. But let's get some responses, because, like I said, I'll be the first one to say I'm biased just because of the content that I take in. So again, wanted to kind of get both sides of this so we can at least have a conversation about it, instead of me just standing up here saying, nope, USC was wrong. This is all their fault. Notre Dame's the best. Go Indy. I probably will say that, but I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox and tell you guys and gals that. But let's take a look at some USC tweets here. Well, Eric Thomas replied to a tweet from Stuart Mandel. School that never made the CFP cancels century-old rivalry over concerns it might get left out of CFP. So Eric Thomas replies, USC football used to be the final boss of this sport. Now they are openly operating with their tail between their legs. Kind of going into what I was kind of, started off saying there. But let's take a look at another one. And this is the one that kind of put a bow on it for me. It is kind of long, so bear with me here. This is from the Irish Tribune. It says, former USC captain and running back Petros Papadakis commented on the end of the historic Notre Dame-USC rivalry, which has been played nearly 100 years, saying they've capitulated to a coach who's not from here, who understands very little, it seems, about USC football. Coaches come and go. ADs come and go. We've lost SC Dame, and I blame Lincoln Riley and the weak leadership for USC for allowing this to happen. Lincoln Riley was previously the head coach at Oklahoma for 5 seasons before leaving for USC ahead of the 2022 season. Since arriving to Los Angeles, Riley has coached 52 games, posting a 35-17 record, and is 1-3 against Notre Dame. The rivalry between USC and Notre Dame has spanned generations and was only previously interrupted by World War II and COVID. Its pause has sparked backlash from USC fans and former players, many of whom view the decision as a failure to protect one of college football's most historic traditions. I know that was a lot to say, but these aren't just fan reactions to K Crew. These are people that are alums that played in these games that are not happy that this is over. This is from Inside USC. The know-nothings will cheer USC dropping Notre Dame, but I'm hearing from a lot of former players today who built the tradition and legacy at USC, and they are livid. Again. And one last one here. This is from Kenneth Jones. Don't let Lincoln Riley running from Notre Dame distract you from the fact that Lincoln Riley ran from Oklahoma and the USC and the SEC, excuse me. No, I'm not going to get that far in the weeds with it. I'm not saying that Lincoln Riley is just a guy who doesn't like to play good teams. I'm not saying that. But even if you look at what happened this year when they lost to Illinois, he blamed the travel. The same travel that all the West Coast teams have to do to the Midwest and Eastern parts of the Big Ten. And very reciprocally, those teams on the East and in the Midwest have to travel out there. So could it be that he's soft? Could it be that he's running from this? Possibly. But I as a competitor, as someone that kind of views this maybe a little differently, I'm not saying that that's the case. I think it ultimately had to come down to the schedule, and the two sides couldn't reach an agreement. That's it. Now, from here on out, it looks like they're not going to be able to renew this rivalry until 2035, something like that. So in essence, it's done. It's done. And we've seen Notre Dame kind of fill that spot next year, or at least the next 2 years, with a head-to-head with BYU. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I hate to tell you, USC and Lincoln Riley, if you're running from the good teams, you're part of the Big Ten. You're not going to be able to run from Ohio State, from Oregon, especially considering you guys are the closest to, aside from UCLA, of course, but you're not going to be able to run from the good teams within your own conference. And especially this year when the Big Ten has 3 teams remaining. Didn't even throw Indiana in there yet. You're not going to be able to run from them. So I get it. Probably in your eyes, cut the fat where you can. So that's the other college football part of this. So let's, or at least the news. Let's jump into the bracket. And honestly, I had thought that I had done a show prior to, and we already talked about the first round, but we didn't. So let's give a quick recap here. James Madison loses to Oregon, and if you're on the JMU side of that bet, you covered, but a blowout to a Power 5 team. Ole Miss and Tulane kind of belt to ass, the same thing that we saw just a few weeks prior. 41-10. So let's talk about the good games, the games that I think all of us had circled, unless you are an Ole Miss, Tulane, JMU, or Oregon alum or fan. Friday, guns a-blazing, Alabama, Oklahoma. And as we were talking about the Michigan coaching vacancy, I kind of alluded to that, yes, Oklahoma jumped out to a 17-point lead like that. I thought the game was done. I thought there is no way in hell against this Oklahoma defense that Alabama's offense where they can't run the ball. I thought this was a foregone conclusion. Boy, and I was not alone. Twitter was just going on and on and on and on and on. Excuse me. So to say Alabama kind of shocked the world on this one, yeah, especially the way Oklahoma came out. And there's some that are saying that yes, in between the third and fourth quarter, having 50 Cent come out and play a little impromptu concert, especially considering Alabama uses one of his songs to get hyped up, didn't help the cause. I think there's something to that. The folks at Oklahoma, this was a home playoff game. Whoever decided to book 50 Cent, and yes, I'm almost positive they had him booked prior to knowing who they're playing. I get that. But it's one of those you have to read the room. Like, okay, no, we have to figure something else out. And I think pretty much every Oklahoma fan would tell you, yeah, you just got to cancel 50 Cent. You got to eat the money and just take it. Well, Oklahoma loses 34-24. Alabama goes on to play Indiana. Let's see here. January 1st. Miami, Texas A&M. If you watched College Game Day, old buddy in the overalls had a hell of a time kicking a field goal. And we saw every single kicker for Miami and A&M have a hell of a time kicking a field goal. So when this game's 10-3, and there was a lot of folks saying, yes, this is, even though we get the teams that we want, it's not good football. And it was very clunky, a very hard watch, to be honest with you. And I was out Christmas shopping. I didn't even watch it. I just kind of kept tally on my phone. And it's like 10-3. Really? Okay. And I'm not saying that a high score dictates a good game. It was just very sloppy. The wind was just taking over everything. It wasn't the fault of the teams. It wasn't the fault of anybody. It was just the fact that the wind was extremely, extremely strong. And I for one thought that A&M was going to run away with this, but Marcel Reed, when we talked last week, I said, which version of these quarterbacks are we going to get? We saw a okay Carson Beck, and we saw a very lackluster Marcel Reed. And I think ultimately that was the deciding factor. And you could say that Miami's defense caused him to be lackluster, which could very well be. But here's the thing. You had two quarterbacks that, like I was telling you last week, I thought for sure I could trust Marcel Reed way more than I could trust Carson Beck. And like I said, neither one of them lit the world on fire, but it came down to a handful of decisions that Marcel Reed didn't make or made incorrectly that cost A&M the game. Like I said, add to that the swirling whirlwind, I guess you could call it. So that was the first round. Let's look at the quarterfinals here. We've got Oregon at Texas Tech at the Orange Bowl. We've got Alabama, Indiana at the Rose Bowl. We've got Ole Miss, Georgia at the Sugar Bowl, and Miami, Ohio State at the Cotton Bowl. And there is not, let's see here. Yeah, all the lower seeds are favored, which is probably what it should be. But there's some interesting things going here. Oh no, excuse me. Oregon is favored over Texas Tech. I apologize. Oregon's favored by 2.5, Indiana by 6.5, Georgia by 6.5, and Ohio State by 9.5, which that was double digits not too long ago. Let's start off at the top of the bracket here. Oregon, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is the 4 seed, gets the bye, and they have, quite arguably the hardest team to play in the quarterfinals in Oregon. And this is this is kind of a statement game for Texas Tech. Their defense is fantastic. They spent a lot of money in the offseason to get to where they are now. But have they played a team like Oregon? I don't think so. We saw both receivers that had previously been out for a handful of weeks in Oregon be active against James Madison. So one would think that those guys will still continue to be active against Texas Tech. I'm really, really excited to watch this Oregon offense against this Texas Tech defense, because Texas Tech isn't known for playing any kind of defense, and now they're one of the best defenses in the country. So how is that Oregon offense going to match up against that vaunted Texas Tech defense? And Oregon just isn't an offensive powerhouse. They're a very well-rounded team. How is Texas Tech's offense going to produce against that Oregon defense? This is a game I'm very, very excited to watch. Very excited to watch. And I do have some of these in my pick'ems, so I will not. Let's see here. Do I have that one? I do not. I do not. So picking this one, I would take Oregon in the points on this one. And it wouldn't shock me if that gets up to 3.5. Oregon laying 3.5 prior, as it gets closer to the first. Alabama, Indiana, Rose Bowl. Again, this one's on January 1st. It starts out with Oregon, Texas Tech, then Alabama, Indiana at 4, and then Old Miss, Georgia at 8 p.m. So a very awesome New Year's Day slate of football. Cannot wait. Alabama, Indiana. Believe it or not, there are a lot of folks predicting Indiana to be upset here. 6.5 point spread. And I do not think that put it this way, if Alabama could run the ball for 100 yards or 70 yards a game, I'd feel much more confident in Bama in this matchup, but I don't see it. I don't see it. The only thing that is even coming close for me to falter on this is we haven't seen Cignetti in a game of this magnitude. Yes, we saw him last year, but now you are the number 1 seed. You are the best team in the nation, the only undefeated left. Does Cignetti get the job done? Is there going to be any kind of Heisman hangover for Mendoza? Those are the only question marks I have. But even with those question marks, still give me IU minus 6.5. Ole Miss, Georgia. We're going to leave that one because I do have that one in my picks. And I do have Miami, Ohio State in my picks as well. But just the Miami, Ohio State, I think 9.5 is a very generous. I think it could be more. And I think Ohio State just has their way with Miami. We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. So we're up to date on college football now. Like I said, the game I'm really most excited about, Oregon, Texas Tech. Cannot wait. Let's get into some power rankings here, folks. Turbo's power rankings, only a couple more of these left before the end of the season. So let's recap from last week. I had Texans 5, Seahawks 4, Rams 3, Pats 2, Bills 1. And we did these on Thursday, and I told you two of my top 5 were playing against each other. And what a game. What a game. I would have never thought that Sam Darnold would be able to bring him back and kind of get the dub the way that they did. But kudos to him. Kudos to that Seahawks team. And I think you're going to see some shuffling this week. So number 5, I put the Rams down at 5. Even though I still believe they are the best team, not only in the NFC, but the NFL. I think that highly of the Rams, but I think as we're sitting here today on December 26th, there are 4 teams a little bit hotter than they are. But yes, still pencil me in the Rams in the Super Bowl. Texans moved up a spot. Nope, they were, let me see here. I believe yes, they moved up a spot. I really like this team. I really like their defense. Their offense is getting better and better and better and better. And what a great time to do it. What a great time to do it. The only problem is, which we'll get into on the NFL side, is the Jags are just as hot. Just as hot. So let's get to number 3. I got Seahawks at 3. That win over the Rams, like I said, in the end, I think the Rams are still a better football team. But right now, December 26th, the Seahawks are hotter than both those teams. But they're not hotter than the Pats. And I've been getting a little kickback on me putting the Pats so high in these lists. I keep getting, well, Turbo, don't you know that they played the weakest schedule since like 1906? They played the weakest schedule since then. I really don't care. Why? Because they beat the teams that they should beat. Their quarterback play has been phenomenal. Drake May has been everything that Pats fans could have wanted and more. And what's really scary, 2K Crew, is this Pats team's only going to get better. Only going to get better. I have a feeling in the draft, draft and free agency, they're going to be able to solidify that defense a little more. They're going to get, I mean, you would have to think that they'd be looking at least 1, if not 2 wide receivers. What better place to come in with Vrabes and be like, hey, let's do this. Look who's throwing you the ball. How awesome is that? So even though there's a lot of people hating on the Pats, now when it comes time for next year and the schedule gets a lot harder because they're going to finish a lot higher this year, then it's kind of a put up or shut up year. But I think the way that they're running through teams right now with the team that they have is only going to help them moving forward when, kind of rubber does meet the road next season. They're going to be better equipped for it because they're going to retool this team to where it's looking like it needs to be. So I have zero qualms with that. And yes, I am still riding Josh Allen and the Bills. I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC, even though their team itself isn't that great. That defense is terrible. Out of all these teams listed here, the Bills have the worst defense. But the thing that the other 4 teams don't have is Josh Allen. And this is going to be Josh Allen's swan song. I mean, this is going to be his time. And if it isn't this time, Josh, I don't know what to tell you, because you look at the roadblocks that have been in your way in prior years, they're not there. Mahomes, gone. Burrow, gone. Lamar, gone. You've already beat Drake May? Okay. No problem. No problem at all. So those are my top 5 Turbo Power rankings. Now, we talked about the Jags. The reason the Jags aren't in there is because I like the Texans more than the Jags, even though the Jags are hot right now. I think the Texans are just that much better, even though they are behind them in the standings. Denver, still not buying it. Still not buying it. You barely squeak by a Chiefs team where no one in the world knows who the fuck the quarterback is. You got to be better. Got to be better. Chargers, love them moving forward. Just the health of Justin Herbert. It looks like it's getting better, but he's still getting tackled a lot and stiff arming with a broken left hand. Don't love that. Eagles, haven't been a fan of the Eagles pretty much all season. I think the highest they've been is 5, and any of my Power 5s cannot put them in right now. And then the Niners. The Niners are kind of that forgotten team. And if I did not have two other teams from their division in this in this Power 5, they would be in there. And you might be saying, well, Turbo, that's kind of a bad way to think about it, because you look at the Niners, and if they win out, they could win their division. They could honestly be the number 1 overall seed. Well, show me. Show me. I love this Niners team. I love them. But as far as breaking into the top 5 or the Power 5, this is where it's at. This is Turbo's Power Rankings top 5 NFL teams for, what the hell week is it? Week 7, going into week 17. Going into week 17. So let's get into some picks, shall we? Let's get into some picks. All these odds are via FanDuel, not sponsored. Would love to be sponsored. But yes, 34-28. We went 3-2 last week, even though I thought for sure I only went 1 for 4. But after checking the tape, 3-2. Now let's not talk about going over yesterday. That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible. But let's not get into it. Let's not get into it. And for those of you that are not, there we go, that are not familiar with this segment, it is Paycheck and Onions. The way this works is I give you 3 games to sprinkle on. I give you a paycheck pick, which is my most confident pick of the week, aka lay your paycheck on it. That is not betting advice. And an Onions pick, which is my ballsiest pick of the week. So let's get into some sprinkles, shall we? Excuse me. Let's get into some sprinkles. First off the gate, we already talked about Miami at Ohio State. I will lay the 9.5. I think this is going to be way more than this. This is at least a 2-touchdown victory. I just think Ohio State is that much better than Miami. Another sprinkle here. Give me, where are we at here? Seahawks at Panthers. Seahawks are giving 7, excuse me. I will take that. I will lay the points and take the Seahawks against Panthers on the road. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. You're going to see a lot of these picks are for away teams this week. Another sprinkle: Steelers -3. Where are we at? Steelers at Browns. Steelers have been playing good football. I don't know what's happened to Aaron Rodgers, but he seems to have kind of rewound everything 4 or 5 years and playing at a much better rate than he was at the beginning or middle of the season. Not to say that he was playing badly, but it seems like he's found another gear here late in his career. And the only thing with the Steelers is the defense. But when you look at the offense of the Browns is terrible. Now, how will that offense of the Steelers fare against that Browns defense and Myles Garrett? I have a feeling why this is only a 3-point game, but that being said, I will take the Steelers -3, even on the road. Paycheck pick. Give me the Bills -1.5. Give me the Bills. Eagles at the Bills. Not to say, I mean, this Eagles team, the weather shouldn't be a big deal for them. The cold shouldn't be a big deal for them. But the way this Bills team is rolling, even with their defense is very lackluster right now, this whole Eagles team is very lackluster. So if Josh Allen's healthy, which is there's all points to him being able to play, yes, give me the Bills -1 point. Actually, if we're going paycheck, instead of laying the 1.5, I would probably go money line on this. But since we do this ATS, I'll take the Bills and give the 1.5. And for my Onions pick, this is a hard one. Ole Miss, Georgia. I like Ole Miss +6.5. I like the points. I do think Georgia wins this, but Ole Miss covers. So I'm not taking Ole Miss money line on this one. I'm not saying Ole Miss upsets Georgia. I just think that that's too many points. So give me Ole Miss and the points, but Georgia wins. Georgia wins. Ole Miss covers. So just a quick recap: we've got Ohio State -9.5, Seahawks -7, Steelers -3, Paycheck pick Bills -1.5, or take the money line, and Onions pick Ole Miss covers with 6.5. Covers with 6.5. So let's talk some NFL here. We've got there's a lot of things happening. 2K crew, a lot of things happening. Kind of recap yesterday's game. Dallas wins. Dallas goes 2. Washington wins 30-23. Detroit gets upset by Minnesota at Minnesota, and Denver goes into Kansas City and kind of upsets the apple cart, as it could be Travis Kelce's last game at Arrowhead. But even that game was 20-13. That is the reason why I cannot get behind the Denver Broncos. This should be a game where they should win 40-13. Or why this Denver defense, so good as they should be, why in the hell are they giving up 13 points to a Kansas City team who is on their third string quarterback? We can't have that. Cannot have that. This should have been 40-3. Especially, I mean, I can't have that. I can't have that. So let's take a look at the standings here. We kind of talked a little bit about it, but AFC East, Patriots are 12-3. Buffalo is 11-4. Both those teams have clinched. Dolphins and Jets are out. In the North, Steelers lead the division 9-6. The Ravens still have a chance at 7-8. The Bengals and Browns have been eliminated. In the South, the Jags are 11-4. Texans are 10-5. And the Colts, who are still with their head above water at 8-7, still mathematically not eliminated. The Jacksonville has clinched at least a playoff spot. In the West, and the Titans have been eliminated a long time ago. In the West, we've got the Broncos at 13-3, Chargers at 11-4. Chiefs and Raiders have been eliminated. Over at the NFC, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles have clinched their division because the Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants have all been eliminated. They're in at 10-5. In the NFC North, the Bears and the Packers both have clinched playoff spots. The Bears lead the the NFC North, 11-4. The Packers are 9-5-1. The Vikings and the Lions have been eliminated. I'll finish the recap and then we'll kind of get back to. I'll give you my spiel on the Lions here. NFC South, Panthers lead at 8-7. Tampa Bay is still alive at 7-8. Falcons and Saints have been eliminated. And the NFC West, we have Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams all have clinched, and the Cardinals have been officially eliminated. Seattle leads the division 12-3. The 49ers and Rams both are tied at 11-4. So with that kind of everything kind of in view now, because I've gotten a lot of, just within like the last handful of hours after the Lions lost to yesterday against the Vikings, and again, a quarterback, I have no idea who he was. There are so many people going, well, and even Huge, who's a pretty big radio show here in Michigan. He's like, who needs to be fired? All the 3 years leading up to this, they had all the momentum. All we heard about was grit. This team doesn't lose. They bite kneecaps. Where do we go from here? And I'll be the first one to admit, I did not listen to a show because quite frankly, it's going on right now. But for the folks that are looking back going, oh, well, Dan Campbell, his record with Ben Johnson is a whole hell of a lot better than what it was without him. Be careful what you talk about, because this offense for the Lions, aside from this last week or two, has been the number one offense in the NFL. The last couple of weeks, it's kind of hard to run an offense when you're on your third string center and the line is a mess. A lot of people are saying, well, we're looking at the next 3 years of, Goff being under contract, and he's pretty expensive. He needs to go. Jared Goff is not the problem. The offense is not the problem. Someone over in Detroit needs to take a good deep dive and see why all these guys are getting hurt. The defense for 2 years in a row have been stymied with injuries, and now it's bled over to the offense this year. And it hasn't been from the skill players. It hasn't been from the guys that you have paid a lot of money. It's the offensive line. We've even seen Penei Sewell go down the last couple weeks with injuries, where he has been like the staple, just the rock that holds that whole thing together. Those aren't the guys that we need to be talking about. We need to be addressing the offensive line. Now, if he's talking about letting people go, we got to talk defensive coordinator. Even though I'm firmly believing that coaching staff should remain intact. I'm not firing anybody. It's just that now, yes, there's been 3 years of progress to have one step back. Does that mean a total reset, clean house? Dan Campbell's got to go. Jared Goff's a bum. Hate every single one of them. No. Lions fans, this is not the Lions team from prior years. You're just getting now a taste of success. You've had success over the last couple years. To expect to have success that is rivaled by Mahomes and Andy Reid is kind of a pipe dream, especially in a division that is getting better and better every single year. The NFC North is very good. It isn't the old NFC North where it's just one team, mostly the Packers, because the Bears were terrible, the Lions were terrible, and the Vikings sometimes were there, but it was normally run by the Packers. So calm down, Lions fans. Calm down. Yes, this is not the season that everyone had thought it was going to be, because if you're a Lions fan, you're like, well, the next step is the Super Bowl, and this is going to be our year to do it. Let's get it done. And I wholeheartedly think that 90% of the Lions' problems are injuries. I don't think they're solved by any kind of coaching change or personnel change. I think if you were to have everyone on the roster healthy for an entire season, which this year we've seen to be completely and utterly just silly to think, that this team is the team that you thought you guys had in the preseason and leading up to the season. It just so happens that injuries happen. And when you think about it that way, Lions fans, you guys were rather fortunate to not have it happen to the skill players, the most important players. The players that you guys paid a lot of money to, and those players are under contract for a long, long time, except for David Montgomery, which I think that situation will be addressed. But all of your major players and pieces are still there. Dan Campbell is still biting kneecaps. I guarantee it. So for those Lions fans that are saying, nope, we were so much better with Ben Johnson. We were so much better. Ben Johnson only coaches the offense. And this offense finally got bit by the injury bug, which is causing the offensive struggles as of late. Again, a third string center, Lions fans. Third string. That line, the line didn't give up 3 fumbles and 3 interceptions. I get that. But they kind of did, because that Vikings defense was all over Jared Goff the whole entire game. And just when it seemed like they were just getting ready, just a little bit more, they're going to get this on track. Boom, ball hits the ground, another fumble. So, no, I don't think heads should roll in Detroit. Detroit fans, Lions fans, calm down. I know you had that taste of just winning and success and getting over that hump and being not the same old Lions. I get that, but this is not the time to freak out. It isn't. It isn't at all. So Lions fans, calm down. Calm down. You're not firing your head coach. You're not cutting Jared Goff. You're not getting rid of anybody. This team will be fine. This team will be fine. So let's take a look at the remainder of the schedule here, 2K crew. For those of you that are Lions fans, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Let me know. Let me know. Because I'm not. I have not been a diehard Lions fan. I'm not a big Lions fan to begin with, but I do enjoy watching them. And from what I'm seeing, this is overreaction is never really the correct way of thinking. And I think Lions fans are way overreacting on this. Anyway, let's take a look at the schedule here. Tomorrow, we've got two games. One at 4:30, one at 8. We've got the Texans at the Chargers. This is going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. Excuse me. We got the line at Chargers -1.5. I'm not. Give me Houston on that one. Give me Houston. Baltimore at Green Bay. Green Bay is a 4.5-point favorite. I have no clue who this Ravens team is. I don't. But then again, I have no clue who this Green Bay team is. This is what, week 17, 2K crew. 1 week. Next week is the final week of the season. If you can't tell me what kind of team you are, gun to my head, yeah, give me Green Bay -4.5. I have no clue. None. It's in Green Bay. It's at Lambeau. Maybe that's I guess. It's probably gonna be cold as shit, regardless if it was at Baltimore or Green Bay. But I don't like it. Don't like it. Arizona at Cincinnati. Don't care. Cincinnati 7.5-point favorite. Probably gonna they're gonna blow this Arizona team up. Don't really care. We talked about Pittsburgh at Cleveland. New Orleans at Tennessee. Really don't care. New Orleans a 2.5-point favorite. Sure. Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Jacksonville's a 5.5-point favorite. I am shocked that it's not more. So yeah, give me Jags. Give me the Jags all day. No matter how good the Colts are or bad the Jags are. The Jags always have the Colts number. The only kind of bright side for Indy is that they are at home. But yeah, give me Jags -5.5. Tampa Bay at Miami. Tampa Bay is 5.5-point favorite. Sure, I'll take that. New England at the Jets. New England's a 13.5-point favorite. Sure, Jets are terrible. New England's not. We talked about Seattle and Carolina. We've got the Giants at the Raiders. Don't care. Pretty much a coin flip. Not getting anywhere close to that one. If you're a fan of bad football, that would probably be the route you want to look at, but not for me. Eagles at Bills, we talked about, and Bears at San Francisco. San Francisco is a 3-point favorite on this. That is the Sunday night game. Love that game. Like we talked about, if the 49ers win out, I believe they're the number 1 seed in the NFC. So there is a lot to play for, especially with the Bears too. Do they want to be a wild card team or do they want to be the division winner? And to be, I don't think they have to win out, but it would be a whole lot easier if they were to win. And honestly, the way things are going, I would take San Francisco -3.5. And to round out the schedule, we've got the Rams at the Falcons on Monday night. What a crappy game. Rams should just roll this Atlanta team. Rams are favored by 7.5. So yes, give me the Rams on that one. Give me the Rams on that one. Well, 2K crew, that's about all I have. For those of you watching live, thank you for spending the afternoon with me. It means more to me than what you know. We did see see Northwestern kind of dismantle Central Michigan. while we were partaking in this podcast. But yeah, we've got Friday football, we've got Saturday football, we've got Sunday football, and then next week starts the ticker for the college football playoff. And again, it looks like Michigan has their next head coach. I'm not sure that it definitely wasn't the slam dunk that we talked about. But as far as being a good hire, I really do think it is going to work out. I do think it's going to be good. The only thing is that it's not a long-term fix. Excuse me. But the more I talked about that, even during the show, it's like how many coaching hires are this day and age? I mean, how many? Yes, there's the outliers that are there 10, 12, 15 years, but even then, maybe the voice isn't being heard anymore. Maybe the coach isn't effective anymore. Maybe they need to take a look at a different look at things. So could it matter? No. But like I said, things in Ann Arbor are not going to get better until they get a new athletic director and president to hold not only the football program accountable, but all the other sports too. I think football just kind of gets the most eyes because they give the most, or they get the most revenue. And one thing we haven't even talked about is college basketball, which Michigan is doing fantastic. Amongst all of this bad news that Michigan is unearthing at a wild rate, the basketball team is providing so much more good stuff. So kudos to them. We will get into some college basketball as the college football season winds down and comes to an end, but we're not quite there yet. Usually we, as a show, we get into that after the new year, when there really isn't, there's obviously no baseball going on. And once there's no football, I mean, we're definitely not doing an NBA show because the NBA's, I can't watch it. College basketball, I can get a little bit more behind. But yeah, with that, I will leave you guys and gals. We will be back next week, same time, Friday, 3 p.m. That's tentative, but that's probably going to happen. So everyone enjoy this week between Christmas and New Year, and I will see you. And for those of you, have a very happy New Year, a very safe and happy New Year. But yeah, I will see each and every one of you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.